Did your avoidant partner ever care about you? This is a really common question that people ask when I work with them on one-on-one coaching, when their avoidant acts cold and disappears suddenly. In this video, we're going to explore why avoidants act like they never care, especially kind of at the end of a relationship or during a disconnect, and whether an avoidant really cared about you in your relationship. Hi, I'm Katya Morozova. I'm an attachment coach and NARM practitioner. I help people recover from breakups with often distant or chaotic partners, and I help people transform their attachment style and have lasting connections. And I do this by using the wisdom of attachment theory. If that sounds helpful, definitely hit subscribe. If you're interested in booking one-on-one coaching, you can do so on my website. That's going to be listed right up here. When someone goes from warm and connected to cold and distant without explanation, it creates this kind of an emotional whiplash. You start questioning everything. You wonder, was any part of your relationship real? Did they mean the things that they said? Were you fooling yourself this whole time? Were you being lied to and deceived? These are some really hard questions to ask yourself, especially when those were the opposite things that were on your mind probably just mere days or weeks ago. You may have even been planning a future with this person, sharing intimate moments. Maybe they're even saying, "I love you." And then all of a sudden they're distant, they're cold, or they're completely gone, leaving you wondering if those warm moments were ever real. This is what's called cognitive dissonance, and it can be incredibly painful. Your memories tell you one story, but their current behavior tells you another. So let's address the burning question right now. The short answer is yes, they most likely cared about you and possibly even deeply. But here's what makes this so complicated. For dismissive avoidance, caring itself can become a threat. I know that sounds weird, but let's unpack this. So to understand why, we need to look at what's actually happening beneath the surface. According to attachment research, one of the main things that avoidants struggle with is showing feelings of vulnerability. Many people think vulnerability just means expressing feelings of sadness or uncertainty. Maybe you can even relate that that's how you feel when you're most vulnerable. But for some people with avoidant attachment, showing care itself is deeply vulnerable. And they can have a mixed bag kind of relationship with that experience, with showing care. Because their early experiences taught them that it wasn't safe. Dismissive avoidants were often not met in their vulnerability as children. They were usually ignored, criticized, or neglected when they showed emotional needs. So think of the child that was trained never to show weakness or cry. When people grow up in this environment, their parental figures often showed little regard for their emotional experiences. And this pattern often can continue and get passed down through generations. And the result of this is that the avoidant grows up not only fearing their own vulnerability, but also unconsciously modeling the treatment they received. So, and we'll unpack that. When someone becomes emotionally needy or wants contact, they pull away and act like they don't care, mirroring what happened to them. And how they treat themselves and how they treat others becomes kind of this mirror reflection. They not only show disdain for their own emotions of vulnerability, they also show disdain to the people who need care, because that's what was shown to them. This is why you might notice they pull away most dramatically right after moments of deep connection. Those intimate moments when you felt closest to them, right? Those same moments likely trigger their deepest fears of dependency and of loss. It's not that they don't care, it's that caring for someone with this attachment style feels threatening, because when you care, it opens you up to pain, to being hurt and to abandonment. Think about it. The more they care about someone, the more that person has the power to hurt them, the more invested they become, and the more vulnerable they feel, which for avoidance can be really scary. You might be asking yourself, well, if they cared, why couldn't they just tell me what was happening? This painful reality is that many dismissive avoidants lack the emotional vocabulary to explain their feelings. Now, I'm not saying this as an excuse, only as an explanation. They often don't fully understand what they're feeling themselves. And how can a person articulate something that they've spent a lifetime avoiding? They have no real connection to it. It's a blind spot for them. And this is why they also might seem completely fine after a breakup or speak about your relationship or to you as if it meant nothing and they're just moving on. What looks like a lack of care is actually their defensive system or their deactivation system working overtime to suppress feelings of loss and grief. And before you go off empathizing with them and, thinking, oh my gosh, this poor wounded bird, just consider that it takes quite a while for an avoidant to actually recognize that they're even feeling loss and grief. We as humans have developed some really good protective mechanisms for avoiding the things that make us feel uncomfortable or the things that feel threatening. When they do finally feel that grief, their defensive system can often come up. So they're not feeling nothing, they're just working really hard not to feel everything. And this isn't true for all avoidance and for all relationships, but if you felt an immense amount of care from your avoidant at one point in time, and then that changed, then this probably applies to your situation. Now, I'm not suggesting that understanding this makes their behavior hurt any less. And it certainly doesn't mean you should wait around hoping they'll work through their attachment problems. But it can hopefully help you make sense of what felt senseless, how someone could share those intimate moments with you, make future plans, and then seemingly forget that you existed. Remember that finding closure doesn't always require answers from them. Sometimes the most healing closure comes from within. And I know that people on here are looking for the answers and they're hoping they can find it with that person and they're hoping that person reaches out. But part of understanding these patterns, the helpful part of understanding these patterns is actually starting to recognize and separate out your own self-worth from someone else's patterns and from someone else's capacity to show care in ways that you can actually recognize. Their silence is definitely not about you and it's not about your worth. When an avoidant withdraws and goes silent, it's rarely about the quality of the person that they're leaving. Their silence speaks so much more and speaks volumes about their own emotional limitations and not about your value as a partner. Now, every relationship is unique and every dismissive avoidance journey is shaped by their specific experiences and trauma. If you're struggling to understand whether your partner still cares about your relationship, and if there's a path forward for the two of you, or if you simply need help finding that closure without them, then I'd love to support you through this. You can book a one-on-one coaching call with me using my calendar up here somewhere or below this video. And we can explore your specific situation together. Did you like this video? If you did, give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you want to watch more videos that help you understand your breakup, help you understand avoidant attachment. Next up is my video on the dismissive avoidant, and it's going to be right up here. So definitely check that out next in the series. I hope you keep watching my videos, and thanks so much for stopping by this time. All right, bye.